today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about burnout doesn't just impact your day-to-day work experience. It is the slow killer of relationships. Do you feel too drained to communicate or share affection? Like you just can't be bothered. This is a warning sign that indicates emotional burnout. You can rekindle intimacy and build a stronger, more resilient relationship, but it requires you owning where you are, and it demands that you share where you are with your partner. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today we're going to talk about burnt out and barely talking. Fix emotional exhaustion in love. Does it feel like you're running on empty, barely able to connect with your partner? Emotional exhaustion can quietly erode even the strongest relationships, but there's hope to reignite your bond. You know, we've done whole episodes on levels of burnout. Go back about 20 episodes, 30 episodes, and you'll find the burnout episode. It's a great episode. It defines all the levels of burnout. And so burnout or overwhelm might be another word for it, isn't just an experience. It occurs on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being I'm absolutely fresh, you wonderful, wet behind the ears, and 10 being I'm cooked. And everything in between is different levels of burnt out. Emotional exhaustion occurs when we feel like there's more that we can handle. And the level of exhaustion is contingent on whether there's still a shred of self-care happening at all. Typically, when we start to feel overwhelmed, the first thing that goes is our relationship, not necessarily our self-care. So I want you to get that if you're experiencing any kind of overwhelm, you are in burnout. You're moving towards burnout. Overwhelm is the road to burnout. And the first thing that's impacted is your primary relationship, not because you're a bad person, not because you don't care about them, but because we take that relationship for granted. Typically, our love partner is someone we've invested a lot of time, a lot of emotion into, and we just have an expectation that we can coast there more than anywhere else. You know, if we don't go to gym for a few weeks, it's hard to go back. But with our marriage, we could coast there for a while, and it seems like not so hard to get back in that place that we were. Well, that's a little lie we tell ourselves. The truth is that stress from work, stress from parenting, any kind of life stress spills over into our love life, and it is far more impactful than we actually know. We talked in previous episodes about the experience of being a roommate. This experience of who is this person? And what that is, that roommate syndrome is the outcome of many little taken for granted episodes. Here's what I'm going to promise you. You can rebuild connection even when you feel depleted. It's just a matter of setting the intention. And as I'm saying that, I'm almost thinking, you know, what I really should be doing is dedicating this episode to how do you reprioritize so that you're not feeling overwhelmed. And maybe that's an episode we're going to do. Right now, we're going to explore, though, what are the signs of emotional exhaustion in love? Do you feel too drained to communicate or share affection? Like you just can't be bothered. This is a warning sign that indicates emotional burnout. And it's driving a wedge between you and your partner. It's like the second that they ask you, how is your day? And you just want to say, all right, you need to know you are in a state of emotional burnout. If your conversations have become bare bones, avoiding important subjects, or maybe they're not even conversations, this is a sign of emotional exhaustion in love. If any conflict feels like it's conflict, if any conversation feels like it's intrusive, like it might be a conflict, then you're probably in a state of exhaustion. When we are emotionally tired, whether it be from the relationship itself, whether it be from work, whether it be from parenting, whether it be from any stressor in our life, our sensitivity goes up. We become more defensive. It's because, again, another previous episode, the part of our brain that's rational and that sorts out information when it requires a certain amount of emotional energy to run. This is the prefrontal cortex, or the director, I like to call it. When our director, part of our brain that's the director, is at work, it needs a lot of emotional energy. The director can be exhausted at the end of the day, but sometimes you wake up and the director's exhausted. Sometimes you wake up, you get in your car, and it seems like everyone's trying to cut you off. It seems like everyone's trying to do you. You're just totally, the director is not in place. When it seems like everyone's trying to attack you, that's a sure sign that your director is disempowered, and your director is disempowered because you are emotionally drained. And when you're emotionally drained, there's the diva, your amygdala takes over, right? It's always looking for danger. If you're always seeing potential danger through your day, particularly with your partner, the chances are you're emotionally exhausted and your amygdala, the diva, has taken over. If you're experiencing a lack of physical or emotional intimacy, you're just not even holding hands anymore. Forget about doing it. Chances are you're in a state of emotional exhaustion. Why? Because intimacy requires emotional presence. I'm not talking about raw physical sex. I'm talking about an environment of safety, trust, and vulnerability where you feel close to each other. It requires emotional presence and relaxation. And if our emotional energy is drained and the diva's kicking in, we just can't be in that place. Resentment will bubble under the surface when neither partner feels supported, or even when one partner doesn't feel supported. If you're experiencing any of this, you are in or on your way to a state of emotional burnout. Burnout doesn't just drain your energy, it chips away at your bond by creating distance. There's a tendency when we're feeling our emotional energy is low to withdraw. Duh, I don't have a lot of emotional energy. I'm going to pull into myself. It's a self-protective mechanism. We tend to, in fact, most of us are introverts, not extroverts. So most of us tend to want to recharge our battery emotionally. If you're the rare extrovert, what that might mean is you might be out there all the time talking to people, but never really spending time at home. Either way, it's an indicator that you're looking for a way to recharge your emotional battery. But when you have unresolved stressors in your marriage, with your kids, anywhere in your life, that's good. Somebody told me it's like your love cup has a hole in the bottom of it. So no matter how much you try and fill that cup, there's always some draining away. So you tend to be more and more isolated. It's a cycle of disconnection. One partner pulls away, the other one feels neglected, and they start pulling away too. Over time, one partner's emotional burnout will literally drain the energy out of the other partner. Unresolved stress makes both partners reactive. It activates their divas instead of responsive. Responsive being the caring response of your director. The worst part is that when we're in this state, something about our culture tells us we need to power through. We don't need vacations. When you fall off your horse, you get back on it. Blah, 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 blah. Do you think you're holding it together? Ignoring emotional exhaustion doesn't just hurt you, it's killing your relationship. The toll of suppressing feelings, of suppressing irritability, of suppressing anger, of suppressing resentment, it builds up and it builds up. You think by suppressing it, you're avoiding conflict, but really what you're doing is you're setting the stage for for the diva to come out and sing full on, full emotion, and that is in some ways more destructive for your relationship than expressing the small irritations. The physical impact is poor sleep. When we go to bed with unresolved inner conflict, when we go to bed emotionally exhausted, we often don't sleep well. And when we don't sleep well, that leads to other problems. We start eating foods that aren't so healthy for us, foods that give us immediate energy, but aren't so good for our bodies, empty calories to just power through the day. Maybe we start caffeinating like crazy. Maybe you're a Red Bull fanatic. When we're in that space, patience drops pretty radically. We're driving through, pushing through. We got to get there. We got to get there fast. We got to get there now. We start railroading over other people's feelings. No matter how considerate we are, we start to miss the telltale signs, the ones we used to pick up that were cues for slow it down, pay attention. This is why ignoring the issue leads to more disconnection and greater potential breakdown. You can't stuff it. You can't power through it without it coming out even more explosively. It might feel impossible to connect when you're running on fumes, but small intentional steps can start to heal your relationship. The first intentional step would be to actually, I'm going to put in a pitch for prioritization. Typically when we're overwhelmed, it's not that there's so much going on that we can't handle it. It's that we've taken on more than we can handle. So if you prioritize all the things that are going on properly, you'll have more energy. During the pandemic, what the couples I worked with found was if they took care of themselves first, made sure that they were getting enough sleep, the right kind of sleep, make sure that they were exercising, make sure that they were eating better, make sure that they were socializing appropriately. Then once they started taking care of themselves, the next thing would be work on their partnership, focus on their partnership. If they and their partner were in alignment, then they could better focus on the children. And when the children were properly cared for, the work challenges just fell into place. But typically when we are exhausted, what we do is we focus on work first. We focus on kids next, or maybe our partner, but we drop off, or maybe we focus on ourselves, but our partner drops off. So that when we're exhausted, the priorities are all sideways and upside down. For each of these things, it's going to take slowly building or rebuilding habits of self-care, habits of connection. I want you to create micro moments of connection, just little teeny moments of connection with your partner, letting them know that you love them. It might just be as simple as you used to kiss each other goodbye, but you don't now. Maybe it's just every time you see them and you're going to go separate ways for the day, you kiss them goodbye or give them a little hug. Take the time to show just a little affection. Do not expect sex afterwards that night, by the way, if you're a guy in particular. All right. Guys tend to think, oh, if I show a little affection, I should get some. Just get off of that. It's about creating micro moments of giving without expecting anything in return. It might be scheduling a little time every morning to say, what time are you going to be home tonight? How could we break bread together? Little micro moments of connection. No matter how busy you are, you can squeeze out 30 seconds or a minute to connect and build on that. When I was first learning meditation, I heard the prayer and meditation and mindfulness were really good for me, and I wanted to do more of it. I was so bad at it. And I went to this monastery, Zen Buddhist monastery, where we sat for an hour and a half a day in the morning and an hour and a half at night. And it was awesome. Oh my God. At first it was really hard, but I loved the way I felt afterwards. And I went to the abbot of the monastery and I said, hey, you keep telling me that if I do this for 20 minutes a day, my life is going to change, but I can't sit still for 20 minutes. And he said, you don't need to sit still for 20 minutes. He said, every day, sit still for 1 minute for the first week. And in the second week, sit still for 2 minutes. And then in the third week, 3 minutes. And in the fourth week, 4 minutes. And build it that way. He said, first, just get in the habit of taking a small moment for this practice and grow that incrementally every week. And I'm encouraging you to do the same thing with your self-care and with your marriage. And the next step would be to maybe share your feelings of exhaustion. Maybe in that 1 minute that you're going to carve out or 30 seconds to carve out, you should say, wow, I'm so exhausted. I'm so overwhelmed. You don't have to say, I'm sorry. You don't have to do anything. Just tell them how you feel. Just don't bottle it up anymore. Self-care is the pathway to relational care. Relational care is the pathway to life success with your partner. What if the stress that's pulling you apart could actually bring you closer together? Think about that. Sharing your exhaustion, asking for help is a small step for you. It's a giant step for your relationship. Any opportunity for teamwork and for partnership, no matter how small, is going to start to open the door to you feeling safer and them feeling safer. It's going to open the door to re-establishing connection. Maybe part of the reason why you're feeling so overwhelmed is you've been gaping a little into screens, social media, movies, AI. What else can I think of? Maybe you've been texting with people that you shouldn't be texting with. Carve a minute or two out of that and put it into your relationship. Start to set some boundaries around work. I'm going to work from 9 to 5, or if that seems like too little, I'm going to work from 9 to 8. But make sure that you have a definite beginning and a definite ending to work. This is something else that we found out with couples in the pandemic. When they were working at home, it was actually harder for them to stop. So we would encourage them to go from one room to another. We would encourage them to stop at a certain time and definitely stop. Set boundaries with your technology. Set boundaries with external stressors in the same way that when you're on a computer working, having constant pop-ups interrupts the flow of work. External stressors like phone calls, people knocking on the door, organizations that you're involved with demanding your time. These are all going to show up as interruptions and painful. So start setting boundaries around these things as well. Emotional exhaustion doesn't have to be the end of connection. With small steps, you can rekindle intimacy and build a stronger, more resilient relationship, but it requires you owning where you are, and it demands that you share where you are with your partner. Remember, the signs of burnout are the director has no energy. The diva is in charge. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of emotional extreme. Or maybe you're of the other genre. Maybe you're completely emotionally shut down, experiencing these feelings inside but never expressing them. Either way, or here's the third way. The third way is it might show up as hostile perfectionism. Those are three ways that burnout can show up. Because there's a lot of shame that comes with being ineffectual, and those are signs of shame. Prioritize your well-being first. Prioritize your connections second, your kids third, and work fourth. And you can't fail. I want you to sit down and think about where you're going to start today. And go to my website, richinrelationship.com. There's some tools there. But let me know what you choose, or comment on this podcast and let me know what you choose. And in the meantime, I want you to have a wonderful day and an amazing tomorrow.